Hello class. Today what we're going to do is teach you how to glaze. First you want to rinse out your ceramic piece because as it's set around it gets dry. Now you can see that some of the water after I rinsed it has soaked into the glaze or into the actual piece, and once we go to glaze it, the glaze has water and that needs to absorb in. So it needs to be, you don't need to soak it for too long to get that started. You'll notice that I'm painting on the inside. I normally start with the inside first and then move to the outside. You can do it otherwise, but notice that I'm grabbing it, I'm picking it up and twisting it. So putting on the inside is better. For glazes, you want to add at least 3 coats to it, 2 to 3 coats. So that's what I'm working on as my second coat. I waited till it dried till I added on the second coat. Now I'm going to approach the outside of the pot. If you're only using one glaze, I would only use 3 coats. If you're using 2 different glazes, I would use 2 coats of each glaze. So what I'm doing first is I'm painting around the base of it. I'm getting a nice full brush and I'm giving myself about 1/4 of the inch. This assures that whenever I fire the piece, hopefully if the glaze runs, it'll stop at some point. And I just get a large loaded brush of glaze and just paint around the bottom, the base part of that, and then I start painting up from there. Now you can see I have about 1/4 of the inch from the base that isn't glazed, and that just kind of prevents it from running. As you can see, I'm applying the glazes. Now normally what I do is I apply a thicker coat of the glaze on the top, so for sure 3 coats on the top, and maybe I might do 2.5 coats on the bottom. Now I'm shaking up my glaze because what happens is the glaze will settle out in heavier metals or any kind of material will go to the bottom. Now what you can see is I have a contaminated brush. I do not want to dip that into the green glaze or any kind of glaze. You don't want to contaminate glazes because that will change the color forever and you'll never be able to get it back until you pitch the glaze or just use it all up. So I'm going to use a fresh brush, wait till my pot is dry to apply the 3rd and 4th coat. Now notice I'm not painting it as thick on the bottom, I'm painting it more heavily on top, and that way if it runs down, it'll be okay. Now that my interior is also dry, I'm going to put a 3rd coat of glaze using the seaweed glaze, and I'm just going to create that coat for that so that when it fires it runs down to the bottom. Now look on the inside, I've glazed the entire inside, and then the 2nd coat hasn't gone all the way down because I know that that glaze is going to run and I don't want it to get too thick on the bottom. Now the glaze that runs past your 1/4 inch mark, just take a wet sponge or a damp sponge, probably a wet sponge, and just wipe that off once it dries. Wait till it dries because it'll come off easier. And then there's another little part that I'm going to wipe that mess up. And then check the bottom. If there's any glaze on the bottom, wipe that up too. Now you can see I have about 1/4 of an inch left on the bottom all the way around, just so that if my glaze runs it can hopefully stop. Alright, for cleaning out a brush, what you're going to do is you're going to run water over it. Now you can either scrub it in the basin or scrub it in your hands, but this is if you want to use your brush for a different color of glaze or whenever you're cleaning up. Make sure that you clean the brush out thoroughly so that the water is clear. Now, even for a green one, pay attention closely because it'll go from a milky, watery color to a clear color. So.